Over the past few weeks on Not Your Normal Conversation, we've got to know some of the youth in our ministry. Some of these guys are really, really wired up characters, and some are low key, calm, and serious. Tonight, let's get serious.
Yeah, and let's honor another one of our seniors, Mr. Zack Parks.
Right now, we're talking with Mr. Zack Parks. Zack, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing well.
And I double checked with Ethan before you came on the correct spelling of your name, because I'm sure you're like me. You probably have your name spelled like 5 different ways all the time. So we're gonna have it right when we show this, just if that makes you feel any more comfortable. His mine always gets put with a K, or I've seen all kinds of crazy spellings, but we're gonna get you right with that. So hopefully that's comforting. If not,
The weirdest name I've been called is Zakari.
Nice.
Yeah, not that's terrible.
It was by a substitute teacher.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you correct them, or did you just roll with it?
I went with it for the rest of the semester.
That is the correct response. Just let them be wrong, and everybody laugh like in class.
Absolutely.
Let it be an inside joke. That is 100% the correct response.
Okay, so Zakari, we got a few questions for you. Just with this whole COVID-19 coronavirus, what have you found the most difficult thing to deal with as far as being locked down or quarantined or whatever you want to call it?
It's not very difficult for me. All I've done is sleep and fish. It hasn't been very difficult for me, as it has been for a lot of people.
Nice.
If you got fishing going, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went like 7 times last week.
Is that like every day, or you just go and get bored and decide to go back?
One time I went twice because I forgot my tackle box.
Yeah, that's kind of important, unless you know how to just grab a stick and make a hook or something, I guess. But you say that there's nothing really different right now, but without missing, basically a whole 9 weeks of school, how is that transition with having to do stuff, at home, virtual, online classes or whatever, whether you're doing them or not, but the social aspect, all of that, how's that changed, other than the obvious, like you're not in the school building?
Social aspect of it is a little bit harder just because I miss having all my friends around. But doing all the schoolwork I did a little bit of it until I saw this email that said we didn't have to do it unless we were failing in class. What? So I haven't been doing any of it. I did like half of it. But yeah, I did some of it, but it's not very difficult. It's the same work that I would do in class because most of our work was virtual, even when we were in school.
Oh, interesting. But it is your senior year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
no graduation for me.
Yeah, well, hopefully they've not taken it off the table completely.
I do think they'll have it.
Yeah, they said, last thing I heard was maybe something in June or something, and we'll see if everybody shows up or if they have, part of your class shows up, part don't, whatever. But hopefully it does. I feel terrible. Jason and I were talking to Emily Brown earlier, kind of same situation. And it's just, I feel terrible for you guys not to be able to have that recognition or, which, Clayton, you guys got your prom in. So some schools didn't. So, all right, y'all were one that got it in, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were very lucky with that.
Yeah, I think that was actually the last day of school, wasn't it? Then it was that Friday,
I think so.
And then Monday
Yeah,
it
it
just never came back. So yeah, I got fortunate with that, but a lot of people didn't. So feel terrible for you guys and that. But so with that said, have you noticed any positives that have come out of this COVID kind of quarantine lockdown?
I have seen some positives. A lot of people are, especially some of my friends, are becoming more physically fit and closer to the families. I see it as like I've had more time to sit down and read the Bible, get closer to God. So I see it as somewhat of a good thing. It can have a good outcome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So during this time, what do you think God is trying to tell you in just like this difficult season we're all going through right now?
I don't know. What are you trying to tell me?
That's a legit answer.
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's really tough.
I guess the best thing I can think of is that the end is near. Just kind of like a little warning that things can go south quick. You always got to be ready.
Is there anything interesting or odd or anything that people wouldn't know about you that you would want people to know?
I'm very talkative. I don't talk a lot in church, but I'm very talkative.
Yeah, I did not know that. So that is it. Now, you do wear a track and field hoodie a lot, though. So did you run track at in high school?
Yeah, I did cross country in both seasons of track. We're kind of like 1.5 seasons of track. 9 weeks kind of got canceled of it.
Yeah. So what events?
I did the 3 mile for cross country and a mile and 2 mile for track.
Nice. What's your best mile time?
During track, it was like 6:40 something, but I just ran I think it was a 6-minute the other day.
Other than the Bible, do you have any favorite podcast or YouTube channel, any book, anything like that supplements like your Bible reading?
I don't really listen other than the Bible, not really, but I listen to Goldcast on YouTube. It's not very religious, but it has all these people telling the stories, and it's very inspirational.
We appreciate it, man. Hopefully things can get back to normal soon, and hopefully you do get to walk across some type of stage, whether it be on Clayton football field or parking lot or something, just to get some recognition for all the hard work you've done the last 13 years. And but if not, that's okay too. You'll look back in a year or two and be like, yeah, it wasn't all that important. I'm okay. I survived through it all. It's okay. But missing the friends and the social aspect of it, we know that's tough. So continue, praying for all these seniors that are going through all this mess. And, appreciate you sitting down and kind of talking with us and hanging out with us a little bit.
Yeah, enjoyed it, man.
Enjoy fishing this week. Hopefully you get some good weather, get some good fishing out there, and take Jason some catfish nuggets.
Catfish nuggets.
All right, we'll see you later, Zach.
Later, man.
All right, I'll see you.
Tonight's episode of Not Your Normal Conversation is going to contain some more mature subject matter.
Yeah, so continuing our conversation with Chretien Dumond, he's going to talk about what he's currently doing with Cry Freedom Missions and their fight to end human trafficking.
And unfortunately, a lot of human trafficking does deal with forcing people into sex work. And he's not going into detail about what that work is, but just with some of these people forced into this work being of a younger age, this is a kind of a sensitive subject, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay, so we're back again, Not Your Normal Conversation. Back with Chretien Dumond. He was so great, we're going to have him back on again. Last time we talked about his wonderful book, Sky Full of Stars. But today we're going to talk about what he's currently involved in. So, Cry Freedom Missions. Chretien, what can you tell us about Cry Freedom Missions?
At Cry Freedom Missions, we are all about reaching, rescuing, and restoring the lives of survivors of human and sex trafficking. So we actually partner with different law enforcement agencies on the local and the state level and the FBI if we need to. And we actually go in and rescue survivors. We're literally snatching them from the traffickers that they're with, and we're getting them to a safe place and helping them walk through the restoration process of their lives.
So can you give us a little insight on how you got involved with that ministry, and kind of what the or how that ministry came into being to begin with before you got there, and then how you got there.
So before I got here, a friend of mine is the executive director of the local pregnancy center that we have in our county. And this is a pregnancy center where anybody can come in and have pregnancy tests, going over all kinds of options for parenting. We do limited ultrasounds, but we were finding when a young lady would come in for a pregnancy test, we ID all of our clients. So we keep a file of all of our clients. We have their ID in there, their medical records and stuff like that, just in case we need them. We were finding that young ladies were coming in and they would not have an ID. Other times they would come in and they would be accompanied by a man, and he would not allow them to speak unless they went through him first, and he would approve everything they would say. We started meeting young ladies who would come in and they wouldn't have a car. They had a car, but this man had made them title their car, their homes, their possessions into his name, and he would hold them hostage. Other ladies would come in and they wouldn't even know their address. They wouldn't even know what city they were living in. And that's when our eyes were open to trafficking that was happening right in our very city. And we said, we have to do something about this. We have to give these young ladies and these young men, because men are trafficked also, we have to give them options to how they can have a better life. And that's how Cry Freedom Missions was born.
Wow. That's
Yeah, so you guys kind of stumbled into the Cry Freedom part of it. Went from the pregnancy center to just being open and attentive to your surroundings, and just kind of having that I guess your ear and your heart tuned to what God was saying at the time, and not passing off that this is just another person coming in with a background. And you guys, I think that speaks back to the caring about each individual person.
Yeah, so I believe when you see an injustice, you have a responsibility to step up and do something about it. These are somebody's sons and these are somebody's daughters. And if we really felt that if we don't do something about it, who will? I think of my son. God forbid he ever got into a position like some of our clients are in, where they're being trafficked. But I would want somebody to desperately do everything they could to reach out for him. And so that's what we're doing for our clients.
well, just a word, I guess a buzzword we've heard in society the past few years. Talking about privilege, maybe white privilege, whatever privilege. We'll just take the race out of it right now.
Yeah.
But we are privileged, and part of being privileged sometimes is not worrying about this stuff.
Yes.
But from what you're telling me, in Goldsboro and Wayne County, Johnston County, even right where we are, this is something we should be concerned about, because it is happening.
We should be extremely concerned about it. Extremely concerned about this. Human trafficking is a $150 billion a year industry. And I believe that it's even surpassed the drug industry. Because think about this, guys. You can sell a bag of weed, you can sell marijuana, you can sell pills one time, right? You follow me? But you can take a young lady or a young man and you can traffic them and sell them over and over and over again. So it is so real. We just got a call a few weeks ago to Lenoir County, just a few weeks ago, little Lenoir County, where Kinson's at, okay? And this young lady, okay, she is from another country. She's not even an American. So it's like you said, it's not a race thing. We have to put that aside because it's multiracial, multi-generational. She was from another country and she met a man on Facebook who lived in New York. And he started talking to her and he promised her a better life. And he helped her to get a passport. He said, if you'll come here, I'll take care of you. I'll get you citizenship. And so he flew her from another country to New York, where he has pushed her from state to state, flown her all around the country, trafficking her out for sex. People are paying him to have this young lady come live with him. We finally got a call in Kinston because she was with some random man that she didn't know. She knows nobody in this state, and we literally went there. We rescued her out of the environment with the help of Kinston police, and we got her to a safe place. So it's really going on right here in our small communities.
Well, and I hope now that you've made that known and you said that to us, so we can maybe stop. That's what I'm looking for. Maybe now that it's a reality, we can be more cognizant of it. Not to give anybody a pass, but sometimes what you don't know can hurt you. So thank you for letting us know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is going on. And our team believes that Goldsboro, Lenore County, we're so far off of the I-95 corridor. So I-95, which runs all the way from Florida to the northern part of our United States. We're so far off of the corridor there, off the 95 exit, that traffickers can come to these small communities and lay low and get by with their trafficking.
I don't know if you're aware of the latest legislation and that type thing when it comes to school curriculum and stuff like that. But this has become such an issue in North Carolina, and specifically, Johnston County, like you mentioned, the I-95 corridor and things like that, that it is actually in the curriculum now for health. And I know middle school and high school, I don't know if it's trickled down to like an elementary curriculum, but they want us to speak about sex trafficking now. So with that being opened up to the school system and talking about that with teenagers and preteens, hopefully that'll help kind of combat that a little bit. Now we know that they aren't going to go out on the front lines and try to rescue someone from sex trafficking, as a teenager, as a middle school student. But what are some ways that young people could get involved with helping?
Yeah, so one thing they could do is just be extremely aware of every single person they add online, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat, that they know the person that they're adding and they don't go out of their way to start a relationship with a stranger. That is one thing. Another thing is if they see something, they should say something. It is a federal law that you must report human trafficking if you know about it. Any case that we are notified of, even if it's a trafficking case that we are not able to deal with, which is a very few, we have to still report it because it is a federal law. So we had an agency call us the other week and they said, we have a young lady here that we believe is being trafficked. So we did a phone interview and we concluded that we needed to go meet this young lady because she was indeed being trafficked. On the way there, the organization called us and said, we are too scared. We don't want to get involved. We're going to just release her and just pretend like none of this happened. We had already notified the SBI because it is a federal law. If you see trafficking or you think that you are seeing trafficking, you have to report it. Another thing they can do is just be educated about what trafficking looks like. One thing our team does is we go into schools, and for students, we do specialized public assemblies that train on what human trafficking looks like and how you can fight it. We train guidance counselors and teachers. We have special training for them to help them identify a student that they may be being trafficked. You mentioned about the curriculum. It's a state law now. It was passed by our state legislator that the state legislators passed that all 18 years and older staff and students in public schools must be trained about human trafficking. So we really have been busy going out into schools and working in partnership with school boards in different counties to train on what human trafficking looks like. We have a class called Human Trafficking 101.
What advice do you have for family members who may fear that their child or their friend has fallen into this lifestyle and they want to get them out?
Yeah, so what they can do is just be as loving as possible, just as patient, as loving as possible. I personally recommend them attending a Celebrate Recovery class. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of CR. Temple Church in Selma has an amazing, top-notch Celebrate Recovery class. Temple has a Dream Center too that we partner with. Just an amazing ministry. I would say get connected to a Celebrate Recovery class. Even if the parent is not an addict, but they're living with an addict or working to love a son or daughter or granddaughter or grandson through addiction, or they fear they're going down the wrong path, I would recommend they get connected to a Celebrate Recovery community and really get some practical advice on how to walk that kind of stuff out. But keep in mind that they are not too far gone. I think you have to set certain boundaries. You do have to set healthy boundaries with family members, but also doing everything you can to love them and let them know that they are cared for. We tailor that to the different audiences, whether it's a local church we go into or it's a public school or civic club. And we really are just trying to get the word out that trafficking is real, it's really happening, and we really have to do all that we can to educate ourselves about it and fight it. We are really blessed because we have local officials like Jim Perry. He's a senator for North Carolina in the state Senate. He is such an advocate for us and a strong supporter of us. Representative John Bell, he is a state representative for North Carolina, and he is an incredible advocate for us. Even the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Forrest, he called us just last week and said, "What can I do to help you?" And we just told him, hey, we have seen a definite uptick in cases for trafficking, especially since the coronavirus pandemic started. We've served more clients in just the last few weeks with the coronavirus than we have in a whole quarter of a year.
I think it's just a lot to take in when you're talking about something so serious, such a serious, heavy topic. So if we could back up just a little bit to maybe the roots of some of this sex trafficking, not on the trafficker side, but the young boys or girls or whoever may be taken in. When you guys are able to rescue somebody out of that situation, do you have a chance to talk with them, kind of encourage them, or kind of give them a little bit of counseling, or how does that process work once you guys are able to find someone and rescue them?
So when we only take sex trafficking cases. So all labor trafficking, which is a real thing, especially in migrant camps in our area, we refer those to other agencies. We strictly focus on sex trafficking. And a lot of people say, oh, well, those are just prostitutes. Well, I can tell you this, a 7-year-old little girl doesn't wake up and say, I'm going to prostitute today. Trafficking in 94% of trafficking cases, the person who is the trafficker is always a close family member or relative, often a mom or dad, who traffics their child out because they need money or they need a place to stay. So when we find a trafficker or we rescue a survivor, we start an intake process, and usually we go right to where they are. And if they're with the trafficker, we literally go and we snatch them away. They leave with nothing but the clothes on their back. So we're having to provide supplies for them as soon as we give a rescue, clothing. We like to give them like a hair dryer or makeup because it helps them to feel beautiful. A lot of these survivors have so much trauma. Studies have shown that a survivor who's been in sex trafficking for just 4 years has the same amount of trauma as a frontline infantry soldier who's been on the front lines of battle for 40 years. So there's a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma. So whatever we can do to make them feel pretty, to make them feel loved, we do it. We do a strong intake where we get as much information from them as we can so that we know how to help them with their healing. We work with licensed therapists, with licensed counselors, and we put them in rehab. I will tell you, when we put a young man or a young woman in rehab, it's Christian rehab. We only do Christian rehab, and it costs us about $800 per month for rehab. We have a 2-year program that we put them through. After the 2 years, they graduate, usually as a certified peer support specialist, because we believe that the things they've been through, God can use them to help bring other people out. We train them to make jewelry, and it's beautiful jewelry. I wish I could show you a picture of it, but we sell this jewelry. We pay them a wage to make this jewelry so that we're actually giving them a job to do, helping them to become a contributing member of society. And then we sell this jewelry in retail locations and online, and that all the sales that we get from our shop goes right back into helping us with the rescues, provide for the survivors, give them rehab, and also operate our safe house. So we have a safe house that's kind of towards Green. It's in Greene County area going towards Pitt County. I'd love to take you guys out there and give you a tour, but it is an amazing property. It is totally secure and secluded, and that's where we house some of our survivors.
You mentioned now that you send these people to Christian counseling, and just again, this is a heavy topic we're talking about now, and I feel like stopping sex trafficking should be everybody's just duty as a human being to look out for your fellow human. But as a Christian, how much more so should we be just invested in ending this?
Well, Jesus, as we talked about earlier in our other segment, Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And what does loving your neighbor look like? It's doing whatever you can to reach out to them and to show them love, or in this case, to go and pry them away from somebody who is mentally, physically, and sexually abusing them. If we don't do it, who will do it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we're thankful for people like you and that ministry who will go out and do it. That's the things that you see and the things that you experience can't be easy for that reason. When you go in and you see in people and you hear the stories of, like you said, the 7-year-old girl and those type things. So it's important for you all, I'm sure as well, to have a good support system. So how do you guys deal with that side of it? Just the things that you see, and you talk about the PTSD from them, but you guys on the front lines also, you guys got to have a good support system as well, I would think, right?
Yes, we really rely on the support of our local churches and our pastors to love on us, encourage us. We really encourage one another. Prayer is definitely something that really gets us through, really, not in a cliche way. But let me tell you what else gets us through. And if I can, just for 1 second, can I share my screen with you guys?
Absolutely.
I want you to see, can you see this picture I pulled up?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I also sent it to you guys. This stuff right here is what keeps us pumped up and what keeps us passionate. This is Ashley. She just graduated our 2-year program in January. You can see her before pictures when we met her in the local jail. She's been in jail 17 times. She's been in prison 4 times. When we met her in jail this last time, her jaw was actually broken because she was in a really bad car accident. She was driving. She was incredibly impaired, and she was running from the police, just a full-on chase. So her jaw was broken. This was when we met her in jail, and she said, enough is enough. I'm sick of the drugs. I'm sick of this life. She was being trafficked, and we met Ashley. We put her through our 2-year program. She just graduated in January. You can see she has a beautiful smile. One of our partners, who is a dentist in town, I think it was Dr. Hennett, he donated all the teeth work for her. It's about $20,000 worth of teeth. Ashley will tell you, nothing in my life changed until I got it right with Jesus, until I met God. And I will tell you, her story right there keeps us going, because there's other Ashleys in the world. There's other Ashleys in Wayne County and Johnson County and Lenoir County who need somebody to advocate for them and need them to help. So that keeps us going.
We asked you before what people can do to help. I just kind of backtracking into that. What are signs people need to be aware of that they could be potentially stalked or groomed, or I don't even know what the right word is, they're about to be a victim?
Yeah, you're using definitely the right words. Because that's really what it's like. It's a grooming process, and it starts out as people just building a friendship with you, but then the friendship turns to more. They start asking for things and crossing boundaries that you just know are not right. So that's definitely stuff to pick up on. Being as safe as possible as you can online, not giving out your um, your personal information. I know there's a lot of information that's out there that's public records, but just being as guarded as you can possibly be and only friending people that you know. There's other signs of trafficking. That you can look for on people. Like a lot of traffickers actually brand their the survivors that they traffic, so that brand looks like a tattoo of a barcode. That's something that we've definitely seen a lot, and that branding also it messes with the mind of a survivor. It mentally manipulate these survivors. It's mental manipulation, and it really does work on their self-esteem. It breaks it down. It breaks down everything about them. So that's a lot of why they make the barcodes a brand. They make them get tattoos of barcodes, and they literally make them believe they're property to be sold over and over again. And humans should never be for sale. Never ever should a human being be for sale. Right now in history, there's more human beings in slavery than if you took all of history and combined every single number and you added it all together. We have more people, there's more people in modern day slavery than any other time in the world.
So what? I don't know how much you've already told one story with Ashley and going in and her coming out of jail. Um, how does that work with? She was not one that you guys had to take out of like a house or out of a situation. So she came out of the jail setting. So how, kind of what's the background on how that ended up to be? Where are you contacted by the jail and they just say like, hey, we've got somebody that may be a candidate that wants some help. They're reaching out. They don't have anybody else to help them, or how does that work?
That's really unique because we have such a great relationship with our sheriff here in Wayne County, and we have a great relationship with the SBI. We have a certain contact in the SBI. He's an agent who only works on trafficking cases. And if the sheriff knows, we go into the jails 2 times a week, and that really helps us not only identify traffickers, but a lot of people in jail are survivors. That's how we meet a lot of our survivors. So if there is a survivor who says, I want to get help, I want to change my life, the sheriff works it out to where we can take them and put them in a safe place and begin the rehabilitation process. And for anybody who's looking to start a jail ministry like that or get involved in local jail outreaches, it's so rewarding and so beneficial. What I would recommend them do is see, is there a church right now who already has the relationships built or the connections in the local jails where you can just join their ministry team and go in. And when we go into the jails, we're teaching life skill classes, we're doing praise and worship music, we're doing some Bible studies, and we're really just using that as a time to build relationships. And if you look around and say, hey, there's no other church doing this, consider building that relationship with your sheriff and local law enforcement to get you in the door and get that aspect going.
Good. That's yeah, that's I just it's so much to take in. Like I you hear stories about stuff and you don't I don't know, not I think I don't know, it was a year or so ago, like right from down the road from where I live, there was a couple of guys who got arrested, and it was less than 2 miles from my house, and both of them were actually charged with trafficking and stuff. And it's still, even 2 miles away, you think of it as being not in your area. It's just something that you don't think a lot about. So bringing light to the subject and getting people to understand that it is serious is, I guess, is the hard part. And I mean, I know it sounds easy, but at the same time, I guess it's hard to get people to get out of that habit of, or not habit, but that way of thinking that it's not going to happen to me, I guess. And so I guess some of that comes from, growing up or our generation, you always joke about, well, don't get in the white van type thing. That's what we saw as human trafficking. It was more of like human, like kidnapping. Like somebody just comes by in a white van, they scoop you up and they grab you and throw you in there. So I think you shedding the light on a lot of times it's parents that are just so messed up in their own life that they just don't see any other way out, and they just sell their kid or whatever to traffic their kid to make money. Is just so eye-opening.
Well, Mark, I can tell you that the white van scenarios, they do happen. Okay, they are out there, and that is real. It's not as common because, like I said earlier, 94% of trafficking cases, the trafficker is a close friend or family member, oftentimes the mom or dad. This is another aspect you have to think about. And a lot of people say, I say this, I would never do that. I would never, ever do that. But you have to understand that there's a slippery slope. Nobody just wakes up one day and says, I'm going to be a prostitute, I'm going to be a trafficker and start trafficking other human beings. It is a slippery slope. And I believe that a lot of it, especially in the United States, is caused by pornography. An addiction to pornography, I think, is the main root behind what drives not only the traffickers, their willingness to traffic another human being to make money, but also people to actually purchase another human being because they see things online by watching pornography and they have to start acting out what they see as those fantasies. Right now, a study just came out. I'll have to actually send you the link to it, but it tracks the pornography websites' search engines. Okay, so what are people searching for when they go online and look for pornography? And the most recent report that just came out is the age groups that people are looking for when they go online to watch pornographic material is getting younger and younger and younger. So our team truly believes that we are going to start seeing survivors who are being trafficked that are younger and younger and younger because the pornography industry, which is a totally fake industry, it is totally fake. None of it of what you see in pornography is real. It is driving people's sexual desires and urges down a slippery slope that just leads to a life of total destruction.
Just hearing your passion about this makes me think of a friend, a mentor of mine. He does a lot of work in orphanages in the Caribbean. And he's always said, I have to do this. I hate these places exist. And I'm feeling the same thing talking to you.
Our COO, his name is Jonathan Chavis. And before he came on at Cry Freedom Missions, he would go around the world and he would do leadership trainings with pastors to help them build churches. When he was in Thailand, I believe it was, he went into a hotel in Thailand and he saw on the door of the hotel a picture, like a little emergency picture of just an infant with a circle crossed through it. And the sign said, "No sex with infants allowed." And he said he couldn't believe it. But then he took a trip to the Philippines, and when he was at the Philippines, he saw the same exact thing. And that's when he learned that there's actually babies, there's laws against having sex with infants in other countries. And then he learned in the Philippines, and I know this is getting kind of deep, but in the Philippines, babies are actually born in certain places. And as soon as they're born, they pay money for the infant, and they put them in a shipping container and ship them away to be raised and trafficked.
All right. One thing. All right. So I got a question that may or may not run into this, but so you talk about the strong mental bond or bondage, I guess, or like whatever you want to call it, that the trafficker has the power over those, that they just kind of almost brainwash them with the barcodes and the ownership and all of that stuff. But have you guys ran into any, or do you know of any cases where you go in and you try to rescue someone and they just don't want to leave that situation because it's become so comfortable for them?
Yeah, so let me share with you just a quick story. We participated with a sting in Raleigh with the SBI recently, and it's pretty much just like you think on TV. They rent out the hotel rooms, and the task force goes in and they set up in a hotel room, and there's cameras and computers all set up, and they literally are soliciting people, and drawing them there to come and meet. We met a young lady there who was being trafficked, and she would say things like, "Well, I'm not really being trafficked. We're actually working together." And we say, "No, he's trafficking you." And trafficking is this: trading sex. Sex trafficking is trading sex for anything, any coercion, or if you have to trade sex for anything or you feel manipulated to do that, you are being trafficked. And so we say to her, "You're being trafficked." And she said, "Well, he at least treats me better than the last person." And so you can kind of see where she's been mentally manipulated, psychologically manipulated by her trafficker to believe that he's actually taking better care of her really than he is. He's totally manipulating her and abusing her.
That's heartbreaking to hear. As you know, Jason and I both, we have daughters, and hearing that, you put that into reality of that could be your kid. It could be your kid who gets groomed in that way, and kind of bring the focus back into ministry side of it, especially as like a youth ministry side of it. When I hear you talk, I just hear more and more of the cry of the heart of those people, whether it's the 7-year-old girl who has no choice because her parents just put her in there, or the girl you're just talking about there, whatever age she is, with, "Well, he treats me better than the last one did." What can we do to prevent some of that? I mean, is there a way, or what would you recommend, being on the inside of how can we just treat other people to where they understand that their life is valuable and they can fight if something like that ever does happen to them? They don't have to feel like, they've got to give in and just freely give up their life because of that one person who's acting like they're showing them some attention or love.
So I personally believe staying grounded and rooted in a local church is so key just to a person's identity and who they are. Because you have connections in that church. You have people who love you, who, are there and walking through tough stuff in life with you. And you build such a great foundation by being connected to a local church. I think another thing, too, is just to teach them how important it is to know themselves in Christ and who Jesus is and what he's done for them, what he's done for us. Have that biblical foundation, that theological foundation of who we are in Christ. And also, I think the other part to it that maybe might not sound as spiritual, but that's to realize that nobody is too far gone. Everybody deserves a second, third, fourth, fifth, however many chances you have to give them. Like I told you earlier, Ashley was in jail 17 times. She went to prison 4 times. She died even 1 time. She overdosed, and they were able to bring her back to life. And they said, "Who do you want us to call?" And she said, "There's nobody to call because my family's disowned me. My friends are sick of me. There's nobody that you can call." And so I think it's so important that we just realize that everybody deserves a chance and nobody is too far gone. And there's even students in my youth group who I was very close to, and they kind of drifted off. And oftentimes you wonder, well, should I text them or reach out to them? But then you say in your mind, no, I better not, because I don't want them to think a certain way or think I'm judging them. But if you think that thought, if you know of somebody who's kind of drifting off or they're drifting away, who cares? Text them anyways. Show them love anyways. Go out of your way to do whatever you can to reach them and to really, it sounds cliche, but to be the hands and feet of Jesus.